Yeah, but over here you come to Rancho, it's like super peaceful. It's like so weird. It's like I was in Kansas, I come over here and it's like so perfect. It's paradise. But today I'm going to bring you a message about Paul. So how many of you know the story of Paul? Kind of, sort of? Okay. So I'm going to take you back from when Paul was Saul. So Saul was this man who persecuted the church. So he was this man that, he would see Christians. He was a devout Jewish man. So the Jewish didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. So you guys following me with this? So he really wanted to persecute Christians. So when people started, expressing that Jesus was the Messiah, he wasn't too happy about this. He would go to the high priest, get permission to put people in prison. He was there for the stoning of Stephen. Stephen was one of the first Christian martyrs. He was present in that. And then from that, he just became more irate, just wanted to go out of his way to, persecute the church, persecute Christ. So there's this one day he's going on to Damascus. So he's going to Damascus, and he's going on his little journey. He wants to arrest some Christians, wants to kind of see what's going on there. So he sees like this light, and this light hits him, and he hears this voice, and the voice says, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" So this was Jesus talking to him. So can you imagine this man that doesn't like Christ, who's trying to go persecute him on this journey? He's going on this journey, and then all of a sudden, bam, he gets hit with this light, and it blinds him. So he is blinded for a short period of time, and he gets word that he needs to go and see this man Ananias, because he believes that this man Ananias is going to help him, maybe talk to him about Christ, maybe help him with the blindness that he now has. And so this man Ananias heard from the grapevine that this man Saul is going to come look for him. Can you imagine just the kind of panic or maybe fear he might be hearing? He heard from the grapevine, this man kills, is like trying to get Christians, putting them in jail, persecuting them. I mean, can you imagine knowing that this man is trying to come find you? You're probably thinking, is this guy for reals? Is he really converted? Is he really trying to see God? Is he really trying to, turn a new leaf? Is he different? Is he changed? And all these things that are probably going through Ananias' mind, and I'm pretty sure he's thinking, okay, this guy's going to come in probably did he go crazy? He's going to come in with his AK-47 and just shoot up me and all my family. I don't know, should I run? Should I hide? What should I do? But the thing about Ananias is he had the Spirit, and he heard God speaking to him, and he decides to meet with this man. So he meets with him, and he ends up healing him. He ends up helping him see. And from this meeting, this man turns a new leaf. He changes his life, and his eyes are open, and it's kind of like this kind of figure of speech, I guess, or just a thing. He was blind, but now he could see. God started removing the scales from his eyes. He started seeing probably all the things that he has done, and it's who am I to persecute the church? Who am I to persecute the people that are over here trying to get the truth out there, that are trying to really get people to know Christ and to really come to them? So he becomes this man, and it's such a beautiful story about how God builds the church. God can use anybody he wants. We just saw this man. He was the complete opposite of what a Christian was. He was suppressing the church, but God chose to use him. And when we, as the church, decide to follow in God's plan, follow in the things that God is doing with us, then he can use us for very beautiful things, for things that we couldn't even imagine. Do you think this man ever thought that he would write most of the New Testament? Did you know he wrote most of the New Testament? That is astonishing, to think that this man that persecuted the church would actually help make all of us come to Christ through the New Testament. That is amazing, isn't that? Yeah, it's astonishing. So now Saul, since he knows Christ now, he he's going to do things, for Christ now. And he becomes so zealous for the Lord. So he starts going out into these big cities. So he kind of started this urban movement of evangelizing in the cities. So a lot of his missionary work or preaching was done in the cities. He would go, he would talk with the people, and he would talk with them for a while, and as he was getting to know more and more people, he would plant a church in these cities. And a lot of these cities were where the roads were, where there was a lot of trade, commerce, these things, sometimes seaports. So you can imagine in big cities, think of somewhere like LA, New York. And he's going to these places and he's preaching the gospel. And then he says, you know what, when I have enough people and I'm talking to them, I'm going to work with other missionaries and other people, other preachers, work with them to plant these churches. So I said that he had wrote a lot of the New Testament. And a lot of these are really letters. They're not chapters, but they're letters that he is writing to churches that he has planted because he's hearing through the grapevine and what other people are saying that are working for the church that there's some discord, there's arguments. People are arguing about who they follow. They're saying, no, we follow Paul, or they're saying, it's kind of like today, like when you really like a preacher and you're like really loyal to that preacher, and it's kind of like you almost follow the preacher instead of Christ. So he wanted to stop that, and he wanted to say, no, it's not about, people's eloquent speech or people's knowledge and wisdom, because one of the churches that we're going to look at was the church in Corinth, and they were very philosophical. Is that what you say? Yeah. So philosophical, they were really high on knowledge. They really were interested in these things. So some of them, Paul, not being a preacher or not being a man that was just, always spoke his whole life, sometimes some people didn't like that. But the thing that Paul had that set him apart was he had the Spirit. And he really wanted to tell these people, it ain't about really the knowledge, but more who is working with the Spirit and what is God doing, what is God saying. So if you want to follow me, I'm going to read part of one of his letters. And so he was just really working with them, helping them to build the church. And if you want to follow with me, I'm going to be in 1 Corinthians 3:10. So it said, by the grace of God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. So basically, Paul is trying to teach them how to build the church, how to build upon each other. He's like, you guys need to stop with the arguing, stop with the little petty things. Look at the big picture here. We're all trying to work to get people to know God, to get people to really have this relationship with them so they can start walking in their identity. And he's saying, I'm trying to put the foundation here for you, but what are you using? What are the materials you're using to really build a strong house and to build a strong church? So I'm going to kind of make it a little more simpler for you guys. Have you guys heard the story of the 3 little pigs? Yes. Okay, the 3 little pigs. So the story of the 3 little pigs, there we go. You guys remember the story from school, from grade school? So we know that we have the 3 little pigs, and they all decided to use different materials to build their house. So the first pig, we know, he built his house out of straw. So this pig, they're all going off on their way. They're gonna, build their houses. They have to build houses. So this pig, just kind of seeing what was laying around, and, he was like, okay, I'm gonna, build it out of straw. So he gets the straw, he starts packing it up, it's light, so it's easy, and he can build his house. So he goes and he builds his house out of straw. He was the first one done. He's like, I don't want to take too long. I want to enjoy my house. I want to go out there. I want to go in the mud swimming. So he puts on his Speedo, his sunglasses, and he's out there swimming. He has a lemonade. He's relaxing. He's chilling. And he's like, you guys are like going to take so long with your houses. I'm going to be over here relaxing. So the second pig makes his house out of what? Sticks or wood. So this pig sees him making, the straw house, and he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's not very smart. I'm going to do something a little better. So he goes and he's like, I'm going to find some sticks, some woods. So I'm going to grab that. Yeah, it took a little bit more work than the first guy, but he's like looking at the guy like, man, he's having fun. I just want to hurry up and get this done. But this is going to be a little bit more sturdy. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make my house out of sticks. He makes the house out of sticks. Then he goes and he goes with his little friend. He puts his, bathing suit on, goes in the mud. They're having a great old time while the other third pig is still working. So we go, and what's the third pig make his house out of? Bricks. He makes his house out of bricks. So this pig really, wants to make something that's very sturdy and very, very strong. And he understands and he realizes that it's going to take a little bit more work. He's not going to be like the first two pigs and get to, have all this fun right away. Not that he never will, but it's just like he knows that he needs to build a firm house. He needs to have the right foundation. He's not going to just, get whatever's laying around. He got to go to Home Depot, go buy the bricks. He got to get the cement. He got to do what it takes to build that strong house. And I was thinking about the sermon. I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about building. And I got the image of the three little pigs, and I was like, that's funny, that's weird. And I didn't know, and then I started looking online, and I see people doing sermons on this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so weird. And then God started revealing, the three pigs to me, and he said what each one was. And the first pig, we see that he did what? He did it out of straw. And God started revealing to me this kind of person. He's like, okay, this is kind of, and it's not like, oh, this pig is dumb, this pig is stupid. That's not what this is. It's this pig is consumed with other things. This pig is consumed with maybe it's relationships, or maybe it's his work, or maybe it's other things that he wants to fill himself with, that he's preoccupied thinking, I need to go take care of this, that the house doesn't seem really that important. This can also be a pig that maybe doesn't really know Christ. Maybe it's not his fault. He just doesn't know Christ. He doesn't know that there's a higher thing that he can be working for or living for. He's thinking about the here and now. What's gonna satisfy me here and now? Where is my identity? His identity is not on a firm foundation. His identity is in things, and these things we can lose. The second is one out of sticks. Now, you might get a little offended, but oh well. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, but I was here for a long time. I was like the second pig because I thought, we can have this perception that we're doing things good, right? With Christ. We can make it look good. The sticks, stick, it's wood. I think that's pretty, it's okay. You're not like the first pig. You're not going to make it out of straw. That's crazy. You're gonna do things okay. And this second pig is what I like to call a believer. Because a believer knows in his mind that there is a God, but the believer has no action to it. They want to put a facade up like I got it all together, like I'm doing the right things, but when it comes to the actual hard work that it takes to have a relationship with Christ, that really takes to build yourself, get healing, to do all these things, to become the person that Christ is calling you to do, you stay here at the stick house because it's like you want to be somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be too much because you don't want to, the straw house, that's not right. But the brick house is just a little too extreme. So let me stay here in the middle. But friends, let me tell you that it's either you're in or out with God. There's no middle ground. The sticks will not sustain you. to do what it takes, what God is calling me to do. I'm going to give up the things that I think are important to me in order so I can have a strong house, so I can be that brick house that when things come my way, I will be unshakable. My house will not fall down. So what happens when they all have their 3 houses? Who comes? Who comes? The wolf. Now, what do you think the wolf represents? Satan, enemy, maybe life, maybe even ourselves. Heck, I'll say myself, because sometimes we get in our way because we're just like, oh no, I can't do this because of blah, 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 blah. And you have so many reasons why you can't become that brick house. So the wolf comes along and he spots it right out. He sees the straw house and he's like, you gotta be kidding me. So what does he do?
Pops and pops.
So he says what? Wait, what does the big bad wolf say? Okay, so he says, I'm gonna huff, I'm gonna puff, I'm gonna blow your house down. That was so good. Are you a storyteller? Come up here and tell the story now. So he says, I'm gonna huff, I'm gonna puff, I'm gonna blow your house down. So he huffs and he puffs, one shot, the house is down. This little pig is like, oh my gosh, I lost everything I had. I lost everything I worked for, everything that I am. So what does he do? He runs into the house with sticks because that's his neighbor. So the big bad wolf sees and he's like, oh, come on, police. So what does he do? I'm going to huff, I'm going to puff, I'm going to blow your house down. He tries once, it doesn't happen. Tries again, doesn't happen. 3 times, what do you think happens? House goes down 3 times. Both of these pigs are out of luck. Okay, so they run, they're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do, friend? We're here, we have nothing. Our houses went down, like, what are we gonna do? So they run to the house of bricks. So they're knocking on the door, they're like, let us in, the big bad wolf's here coming. So they go to their friend with the 3rd house. So what do you think, where does the big bad wolf go now? To the brick house. So he says, I'm gonna huff, I'm gonna puff, I'm gonna blow your house down. Wait, what do you think happens? Does he blow it down? How about again? He tries again. Does he blow it down? How about again? So the big bad wolf has a problem here. He cannot shake this house. He cannot blow it down. So he does whatever he can. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go through the chimney. But the thing that he doesn't know, that the one in the brick house is prepared. So he makes a fire. He puts a fire in the fireplace. He's like, he ain't getting into nowhere. He ain't getting into nowhere. He tries to come through the roof. I'm going to burn him. So he goes in through the chimney, tail gets on fire, he runs out the back door, and he needs to go to the lake, and he needs to get away from them because that one was prepared. So are you kind of seeing the 3 analogies here? And I really want you not to take this lightly, but it's really to break it down simply and to really take out a look at your life and say, what kind of house have I built? Am I like here where Paul's saying, build your house on the proper foundation. So when the storms of life, the things that come at you, your identity, the person that you are won't be in your money, your job. You know, if you lose your job, if you lose, a relationship, or you lose something that was very important to you, or you thought that was very important to you. Yeah, those things are hard, and I'm not saying that if you're right here in the brick house, you're a true follower of Christ, that these things won't happen to you. That's not what I'm saying, because the big bad wolf, he didn't discriminate and was like, oh, I'm only going to go over here or here. No, I mean, it's like a free-for-all. He doesn't care. He's going to try whatever he can to get at you. But the reality is, if you know truly who you are in Christ, he wants all of us to have a brick house. And the problem is, and I think the problem with the church today, if I can be honest, is most of us are right here with the stick house. And we think that this is going to be okay. Because you know why? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall have everlasting life. You guys go to In-N-Out? You saw it on the little cup? You've heard the verse, right? And you've heard it being preached that if you accept Christ, that if you believe in him, you're good. You have the fire insurance. That's all you need. But friends, may I say that is surely a lie. Because if you read in the Greek, this word believe is actually an active word. It's an action. So this is a little deceiving, and I'm sorry to tell you that it's not just a thought. It's not just something that you know that there's a God out there. It requires something of you. And the thing it requires of you is to give up your life. It takes sacrifice. You're going to have to do some things that maybe you don't think is the right thing to do. That you think, I know best. I know who I am. I know what's best for me. But God is saying no. It's like, the little kid that has the little raggedy doll and like they keep it and it's like, if you're a parent, you want to give them the better thing, but they don't want to give up the little raggedy doll, or the little stuffed animal. And that's kind of how Christ is. It's like, he's like right here and you're like a little kid and you have your little raggedy doll and he got this big old teddy bear in the back. You can hug it, you can dress it up, but this thing, you got this little like pocket thing you probably got in those little 25% machines, or I don't know, you get the analogy. And he's asking you, please, will you give that to me? I have something so much better. But what do? We think we know best. We think that what we have is so much better. Sometimes we're so comfortable in what we have that we don't know anything else. How could this get any better? I've only known this. I don't want to give this up. I'm comfortable with this. I'm used to this. And this can be anything, It can be anything that God is asking us. So church, I'm asking you today, what is God really, truly asking of us? What is he asking us to give up? Or what steps do we need to take in order to come to have our own brick house? Because the reality is that these first two pigs always run to the big house, the brick house, when the big bad wolf comes. And can I be honest with you? Some of you have been hurt by church, and honestly, I'm so sorry. But it's kind of like what Craig said last week, we are not perfect. And I'm not making an excuse, and I'm not saying, we're going to do whatever we want, and we're just going to trample on you, and, who cares if your feelings get hurt? No, if you've been hurt by church, I beg you here, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, please give us another chance. And please don't make me really, really beg because I got mascara on, and there ain't nothing uglier than a girl crying with mascara. Maybe a few things, but not. But I'm asking you to give us another chance. Because the reality is, and I'm not trying to make the excuse for the person in the brick house, but the reality is in this community, we are a body of believers. And if you see the houses as our lives, we're supposed to be a strong community of brick houses. But the problem is, we got too many straw houses, we got too many stick houses, and we got like one brick house on the whole freaking neighborhood. So everyone's going to the brick house and saying, help me, help me, help me, help me. So we're trying to help you. We're trying to get you there. But honestly, some of you have been coming to us for like 10 years. And it's like, wow, and I'm sorry if it's our fault too, but it requires something of you. It requires you to look at your life, take a serious look at your life and say, how can I become that brick house? How can I be that refuge for people? How can I start living out my destiny and start vicariously living my destiny through the stick house or the straw house? Like, we need to wake up, church. Honestly, that's the thing that's wrong with the church. We got too many people right here with stick and straw houses, not enough brick houses. Honestly, we cannot wait for the church workers alone to do all the work. We tired. Give us a break. We need help. And honestly, I gotta tell you, like, if we work together, can you imagine what community we would have if we all had a brick house? Good Lord, this world would be different. But we need to rise up and take a serious look. Are we just attending church? Are we being the church? Are we being the brick house? Are we allowing people to come in and seek refuge from us? Are we allowing our gifts and our influence? Because honestly, it's not an excuse to say that you don't have a good testimony. Oh, I went to church my whole life. I don't have nothing to say. You speak to somebody because somebody else has gone to church their whole life too. And we're all preachers. Doesn't matter if you're here, on this stage, or you're at work, you're at school. We all have a sphere of influence. And my sphere of influence isn't the sphere that you have. and vice versa. I cannot do what you do. You cannot do what I do. We are all individuals working to this cause of getting people to know who Christ is. So, we saw this analogy, and we saw how Paul was really trying to get these people to wake up. And that's really what I felt that God really wanted to do today, was just for us to really honestly take a look at our life and say, what kind of house have I built? What kind of house do I want to have? And it's okay, don't be embarrassed. Like, if you're in the straw house, you're in the stick house, so was Paul. Paul, I think the story's a little skewed, because honestly, I don't think the one in the brick house just automatically knew they needed to make their house out of bricks. Maybe they did, maybe he did make his house out of straw, and he just finally got tired of it. Maybe he went onto the sticks and was like, this ain't working either, I really need to do something different. And may Paul's story inspire you. If he can use somebody who persecuted the church, he can use that person to write a lot of the New Testament, to be a founder of faith, and he was just this big evangelist that everyone knows today, then there's no excuse for us, because how much more can he use us? Did you see the power that God carries? And when you recognize the power that you carry, you recognize who's on your side, and you recognize that you're not going to do it alone, that God is going to help you get to that brick house, but you got to try. You got to ask, what do I need to do? What do I need to remove in my life? Where do I need to go in order to get to the brick house? Because if you recognize that we are houses ourselves for people to seek refuge, if you understand that you carry Christ, we are the temple. And that is what Paul was trying to say to these people in this church. If you go on and jump over to verse 16, he says, do you not know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that the Spirit dwells in your midst? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple. And Paul was not saying we're the temple, we're the church, we're a building. No, friends, church isn't a place where we go. It's who we are, who we become. And we together, as Paul said, we become the strong community. We become the houses, the refuge place that people seek when they're coming with their problems. And they're coming when the world has beat them up and they have nowhere to go. They have nothing. But you, residing in Christ, will show them by the way that you live that your house will not go down when opposition comes, because you have built that firm foundation. You have put in the work. You know that the brick house is worth it. Doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. I'm not going to hear and lie to you and say, oh, it's going to be easy and, everything's going to go good. And if you become a true follower of Christ, not a believer, a follower of Christ, that your life is going to be a piece of cake. Because I'll tell you, the opposition will try to make you stay right here in the stick or the straw house. But you got to make up a decision in your mind. What is truly worth it? What in the end will give me my identity? What in the end am I going to put all my chips in what something that will be eternal, something that will last forever, something that God will use to change other people's lives. And we can be that vessel for people. So I just want to pray over you and say, God, thank you, Lord, that when you speak, your people hear you. And God, I pray that people wouldn't just shove this to the side, or they wouldn't just think that this is just another message, Father, but that they would take it to heart and really examine their lives and say, what kind of house have I built? And God, I just pray that you would give them the strength and the courage, God, to just help them, Lord, to get to that brick house. Show them, Father, who you have called them to be. And Lord, I pray that you would give them the courage to come find the people in the brick house. We may be tired, Father, but we love it, and we want to work together, Lord, to have a strong community that builds their foundation on you, God. So thank you today for doing your work, Lord. Thank you today, God, that you are alive and well, and that, God, when the storms of life come, we know who we put our trust in, Father, because we know, God, that you are, God, everything that we need. And with you on our side, Father, we can become who you have called us to be.